I think you made the more people would want to clean their toilet.
25% of millennials would rather clean a toilet than learn about their health benefits at Oakland.
33% would rather hold a screaming baby. I mean, it's dry, it's complicated, it's boring, right? And early on there was this big push to make everybody an informed healthcare consumer, and what everybody found is it just can't happen.
Yeah,
like people just, if they don't want to learn it, they're not going to learn it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Self-Funded with Spencer podcast. Let's go make healthcare better together. Is there an amount you can charge to develop a curative form? I mean, we're seeing some of that in gene therapy. Is there an amount that makes sense fiscally to charge for something that can cure and eliminate a disease rather than treat forever?
Yeah,
like how do you create the right incentive structure in order to incentivize that instead?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we saw that with the hepatitis C cure, right? And I mean, it's like $60,000 or $70,000 for the series of shots or whatever it is. But, they, of course, did the economics of it. And they're like, okay, if we treat this, right, but then we're going to have people dying, right? And so if we charge them this amount of money and we cure it, that still works economically.
Yeah, and so if you were the drug company that cures cancer, the amount of grant funding you get, the amount of good press you get, it's worth its weight in gold, right? So like, it's not, there are other components to the fiscal viability of that aren't necessarily exchanging patient dollars for treatment.
Yeah.
It's all the other stuff that comes along with being the one that gets to announce they cured cancer. Right?
Yeah.
Grants from all over the world. Right. I mean, you flow in, like, all the governments open their doors. You've got all these partnerships now. You become the preeminent drug company. That's why I don't believe that it's been cured in some secret lab and like we just can't give enough insurance reimbursement for this.
No, I've heard what is it, fenbendazole and something else is like supposedly the secret. There's always like every couple of years. This is the real secret cure, and you just don't know about it. And you want to believe that maybe that actually is true. But anyway, so let's get in the show. Now let's talk about conspiracy theory is actually really fun, but
we should just do an episode on conspiracy theories.
That's a format. So I'm here with Nate and Matt from Medefy. Welcome, guys. Thanks for making the trip down to Tulsa. I usually ask my guests, why don't you tell us what is Medefy? What are we going to cover today? And then we'll go into your founder story because I think it's really cool.
Yeah, great. So Medefy Health. My name is Matt Scovil, co-founder and CEO. Medefy Health. Medefy is an engagement, navigation, and behavior change engine for health benefits. We work with about 1,200 self-insured employers across the United States to engage their employees, actually engage them in their health plan, the awesome health plan that they put together. We help navigate them through that plan so that they actually make better decisions and actually lower costs for the company. These are all real mystifying, pieces to healthcare, and especially in the self-funded world that I think have done a really good job of mapping out and making
Well, you mentioned earlier while we were talking the idea of taking a subject that is mystifying and demystifying, the ability to synthesize something complicated and distill it down to really basic information. Like there's power in that ability to tell the story. And you guys, we've had a meeting before, we had coffee. I think you guys do an excellent job of demystifying what is really, really complicated. Yeah. And so I've been very excited to cover this. So real quick, what roles? What do we guys, I know you guys are co-founders, but what roles do we play at Medefy?
Yep, so I'm co-founder and CEO.
Yeah, okay. I'm co-founder and chief experience officer.
What's a chief experience officer?
Yeah, so it's interesting because early on in the company, right, everybody kind of played this experience role, right, because it was does the platform work? Mm-hmm. Right? How does it work? And then how do we make it the best experience for the actual employee, but then also the people that are our real customers, the HR and the broker as well, right? And so that entire continuum of making sure the platform works and making sure every single person in that healthcare continuum has the best experience possible. And that's what I'm chiefly focusing on.
Well, you guys said something over coffee that I liked. That was like a lot of these employees have really great insurance plans. They just don't know how to use them. And you're kind of joking about how little they like to actually understand these plans. I think you made the more people would want to clean their toilet.
25% of millennials would rather clean a toilet than learn about their health benefits at Oakland.
33% would rather hold a screaming baby than learn about health benefits.
Would you say that's true, Nathaniel, for you, Mr. Gen Z? Probably
nobody likes learning about it, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's dry, it's complicated, it's boring, right? And early on there was this big push to make everybody an informed healthcare consumer, and what everybody found is it just can't happen. Yeah, like people just, if they don't want to learn it, they're not going to learn it. But when they want to use it, Then they need somebody in the moment to help
And
them use
they
it.
panic, right? Ultimately, what happens, you
They panic.
panic
I don't know
and
how
you
to use
knee-jerk
this.
reaction,
Yes.
go to the ER or
Bad
whatever.
habits. Yeah, you go to the ER for primary care, you delay care. Half of Americans delay care because of cost. And so what we realized was if we can't make them healthcare consumers because there's just too much to learn, it's like learning a foreign language. They're going to use the health plan once or twice a year. They're not going to learn an entire language around that just to do that. They're going to just wing it. But we can get them to the same end because they will talk to an informed healthcare consumer. Now, what was interesting here was that typically was played by the role of HR or the broker originally, right? But it's very hard to scale that type of one-to-one magic across the entire population. And that's what we do. We help them scale that across their entire population.
Well, you guys didn't wake up one day and decide you were going to fix healthcare, right? So, like, how did you get here? You guys are both first cousins, right?
We are cousins. That's right.
We are, yeah.
Which is why the rapport is so strong. You guys
Yes.
have a really strong rapport together. But when did this idea come about? What's the backstory to getting to today?
Yeah. So one of the things, just some context that I think Medefy does really well as a company and as a platform is that we're really good about approaching healthcare, health insurance, health benefits from the member's perspective, because that's where we started. We had talked about this morning, how a lot of solutions try to go top down, insurance or the doctor level, and then try to force down into the population. We actually do a bottoms up approach where we're capturing the hearts and minds of the employee and their families and their spouses and working their way up into the system. So that's the reason we do that, is because that's where this whole thing started. So travel back in time with me, 2012.
Okay.
My first encounter with the healthcare system. I needed to use health benefits. I was very poor at the time, dirt broke. Nate and I actually were cousins, as we said. We were living in a rent house in suburban Tulsa with a bunch of college friends, and it was a great.
How many guys in this this
Like
house?
5.
Okay. Yeah.
Hilariously, we were in like a regular suburban neighborhood. It's like families and like walking their dogs, and there's these 5 college dudes. It was very, very out of place. But anyway, I had my first encounter with health benefits. I needed to get an eye exam. I had no idea how much it cost. I had no idea how my health benefits worked. I had a Blue Cross card. That was the only thing I knew. And I was like, all right, I can figure this out, and I spent 3 days trying to figure out what a network was, what doctors were in that network, how things might cost.
What a copay was.
The only thing I had access to at that time was a Blue Cross card with 52,000 1-800 numbers crammed on the back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to call an 800 number. This is was this the 1800s? Might as well just use the Pony Express to write a letter to these doctors, right?
Right.
And so I went on this 3-day ordeal to try to figure out how benefits worked. And at the end of it, I found a doctor network, but I did not know how much it was going to cost. And that made me very nervous.
Okay.
Like many Americans, right, who cannot afford a $400 medical emergency, I was one of those people. And so I told Nathan after this entire ordeal, I was like, dude, we can build a platform that makes this experience easier and better for the average person, because this system is not set up for the average person to navigate.
Well, what made you think at that point, I could build a platform to fix this? It's pretty ambitious.
This is a true story. I was in the shower.
Most ideas come
in the shower. They say that. I was well caffeinated at this point. I need to make sure that that's stated for the record. I was well caffeinated. I was in the shower and I was like, I was really frustrated by this problem, right? Because I couldn't afford a surprise expense. And all of a sudden, I felt called to fix this problem. I felt like this was what I was supposed to do.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. I was daunted by it. I don't know anything about healthcare. I don't have any money, right? I have no connections in healthcare. I was like, but if this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what we're going to do. And I told Nate that. And so we began this journey step by step. We actually, in 2012, we spent 5 years before we wrote a line of code for the platform. We spent 5 years researching, talking to HR, brokers, everyday people. We did surveys of all these groups as well to just learn. One of my early investors gave me a phenomenal piece of advice here. He said, Matt, good entrepreneurs fall in love with their solution and their platform, but great entrepreneurs fall in love with the problem. And that impacted me so much that I began to just fall in love with the problem, which was really an engagement, navigation, behavior problem. Benefits were there to exist to help people, but they were so complex and difficult for the average person to understand that they were not helping people, right? And people were doing a bunch of negative things, like going to the ER for primary care, which I had done, right? Over half of people go to the ER no, they don't have an emergency. They just think they can be seen faster. It's a convenience.
Drive by and you know where the hospital is, right? I mean, if I drive home, I see 2 hospitals on the way home.
Sponsor everyone's softball team.
And so we spent the next 5 years just learning. It was a side business project, right? We didn't do anything.
What were you guys doing at the time, though?
So we had another tech platform. This actually would come in very handy for us later. We had built an online sort of web media engagement
Okay.
piece that ended up engaging about 2 million people, right? And so we learned about engagement, not in healthcare. Later, this would play into a major benefit and advantage for the platform because we learned how to engage people digitally and at scale. And that turns out was a major problem in healthcare that we ended up plugging into our platform and fixing.
Well, so let me ask you this, and Nathan or Matt, whoever wants to answer. My last company, we talked a lot about human behavior. And early on, I think we were trying to force people to change their behavior. And at one point, we realized, like, no, these behaviors are entrenched. So rather than force the behavior change, let's understand human behavior and adapt a process around what they're already going to do.
Right? It is a process of removing friction at every point in the process.
Yeah.
And originally, we actually started out more on the price transparency side of things, right? Just like everybody did back in like the mid to late 2015.
2015.
Teens. Yeah, exactly, right? And everybody thought, hey, if we just show people the cost of medical procedures, they're going to make the right decision, right? Like nobody wants to spend $3,000 on an MRI when they can spend $400. And so we originally approached it like that, and we found the exact same thing. People were like, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to transfer my records. My doctor wants me to go here. I don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation with my doctor because I don't really know what I'm doing. So the behavior change was just never there because there was too many layers of friction.
Right.
And so we have, through our very specific process, we have removed every piece of that process, and we ended up just doing the entire process on behalf of the member. And so we'll set appointments, we'll transfer records, we'll follow up, we'll have conversations with the doctors, we'll get medical records, whatever needs to be done to get you from, I have this problem, all the way through the medical system to, I have a good outcome, and that is high quality, low cost. We've developed an entire system to do that very, very seamlessly.
So you guys are calling it engagement now, but I mean, that to me sounds like care navigation. That sounds like site of care redirect. What would you describe that process as?
Great question. So one of the things that Nathan kind of hit on was the price transparency thing, which in pre-launched called 2015, that's what everybody thought was going to fix everything, right? And what I've discovered is in healthcare, everyone's looking for the silver bullet. What is the silver bullet that slays the beast? And what it turns out is there is no silver bullet. However, there are a series of silver bullets you can fire in sequence that will kill a beast. That's why I'm saying if you do this correctly, mass engagements, a great member experience, and serious cost lowering are very possible if you know how to do the sequence properly and you know how your employee and their spouse especially is thinking about how they make healthcare decisions. Bottoms-up approach fixes the problem. And we discovered this kind of going in more into the origin story, but we had done all this research, we've done all these things, and what do you call this, right? We were beating the bushes in Tulsa, right? Talking to big self-insured employers, talking to brokers. We had a pirated version of Photoshop that we were hawking screenshots of the platform, which did not exist.
Been there.
I think we've all done some version of that. Yes. And after 999 no's, right? We're reading books on how to sell, guys, we literally bootstrapped the whole thing.
I think we actually bought the How to Sell for Dummies book. Remember
Page through that.
Yes.
Heavily dummies at that time. And eventually a broker, I remember we pitched him, he leaned back. Yeah, okay, let's do it. I got 2 groups I think that would be awesome for this. That led to our launch. We got 2 groups on the platform. We built the platform in that time and launched. And then something really interesting happened. So at the beginning, we realized, okay, these plans are rich. They're scattered everywhere. Employees don't know what they have access to. We had talked to 1 million of them, so we knew. And we're like, we know that step 1 here is to not only go mobile and make sure that it's wrapped in a mobile app, but we need to get all the 2,000 of these benefits in one place. And so we worked with these employers to centralize all of that in one place. So we centralized all those benefits, launched it, and we saw media engagement. People were signing on the platform, navigating through. And then something happened that changed everything for us. So the 3 dudes in the company at this time, so this was launched in 2018, January of 2018. We hit about May of 2018. We'd been 3 or 4 months into launch, 4 months, 5 months. And we had to report a bug link. We had no QA at this time. And so our users were our QA. Yes. There were an estimated 3 to 4 million bugs in the platform this time.
There's a lot.
And we had this report a bug link. It was just an email link for people to email us bug issues. And so we were getting blown up, right? And we're like, all right, let's start fixing bugs. But none of them were about bugs. All the emails coming from users were not about bugs. They were about questions about their health plan. Can I go here? Where can I get a cheaper MRI? Is this covered by my insurance plan? Can my kid go to Walgreens for this vaccination? Does my plan cover X, Y, and Z? And we were like, this is the market talking to us. People don't want to use the platform to figure out what to do. They just want to talk to somebody who already knows.
Yeah.
And so we had a one-way push notification engine. And at this time, I told my programmer over the weekend, I was like, look, dude, I want you to open this up so we can talk to these members live. And, we got the inevitable, do we have clearance to do this? We'll figure that out when we come to it, but this is what the market wants. So we opened this up, started chatting with members live, and we just got flooded with questions.
I bet.
And we started navigating these people through the system, right, as best as we could. This is not a scalable way of doing it at this point. We had PDFs of the company plan. Nathan was our first care guide and was just answering questions as fast as he could. And a few months into this, these employers were like, guys, what is going on here? Like, we've seen a significant cost lowering. We've seen traffic to all these point solutions we've been desperately trying to build engagement with suddenly are blowing up. Like, what are you guys doing? And we were like, all right, this is how we're doing it. When people need to make a decision, they need to make a decision right now, and they need advice on how to do that right now. And if you can be with them in that moment of decision, they're going to take your advice 94% of the time.
Okay.
Right. And this was that magic HR did. HR could help them do this, but only for 10 or 15 people that came into their office, right? But what about the 2,000 people on your health plan that aren't going to come into your office, right? How do you scale the ability to talk to them and help them all make good decisions in the moment?
ClaimDoc is a medical claim auditing and member advocacy company. We provide fiduciary services to employer-sponsored benefit plans, and allowing them to create an environment where we ensure that the benefit plans are being charged in a fair and reasonable basis.
My business is basically people, and it become a real simple transition. We thought it was going to be far more complex. I've saved, we'll say, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I could not say enough about ClaimDoc.
Well, so, and my question then back to you guys, or Nathan, whatever, if you want to answer this, it doesn't matter. The engagement piece, because it sounds awesome if you get actually people to think about it, or you get people to actually go, oh, I should ask Medefy this. Yes. The problem is that getting people to do that step, which is to know to inquire in the first place, or know Medefy actually exists that I should go inquire. So how did you do that?
Absolutely. So about a third of our entire process is on the front end of developing the campaigns, developing the processes, synthesizing their benefits down to a very simple message, right? And it's predominantly focused on loss aversion, right? And when you can get into somebody's brain, hey, if you make the wrong decision, it could be a many thousands of dollars wrong decision, right? But if you make the right decision, it's easy, it's streamlined, and we'll do it for you. And Medefy is just the bridge to get from where you are to the actual benefit that is already existing in your health plan. And we saw this so much with direct contract networks, right? And for whatever reason, in Oklahoma, there's like 9 direct contract networks. It's like the mecca of direct contract networks. Awesome benefit. Nobody used it. And it was because they either didn't know how to use it, didn't know what it was, or it sounded too good to be true, right? I can get a knee replacement for $0. Are you serious? Like that sounds fake, right? And it was about crafting that awareness campaign and doing it repetitively. And so we found that the optimal version is you have to talk to everybody every single week about their health benefits, every single week, right? And it's not, oh, look at Medefy. Medefy is the most awesome thing ever, right?
We're a supporting actor.
We're a supporting actor, right? It's your benefits plan is front and center. Here's what it offers. Medefy, again, is just the bridge to actually get to that benefit.
And what does that look like from an interface perspective for an individual? Was it an app? You mentioned text messaging.
Yep.
How are they engaging with you?
Primarily through the mobile app experience. We did that because 90+% of people are mobile first or mobile only. So if it's doesn't exist mobily, they're not going to go look for something else. It can't be an 800 number, though we do have one. We know it can't be a web portal because all those things typically have a 8% under engagement rate. But in mobile, if you do it correctly, Medefy's engagement rate for some of our mature clients is 93, 94%.
Right, but then you go the obvious objection, well, who needs another app on their phone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then what incentives do employers provide to say, you need to download this and here's why, and here's maybe even what you get if you do? We
have some employers that go down that road. Let's give them an incentive. Let's and those work fine. There are some workflow things you can do too that drive engagement. But really, what really drives the most engagement, I don't need an incentive for them to download the app because we're good at building that value proposition and the engagement. So Nathan runs the experience unit, which is a unit purely devoted. We have a team purely devoted to engagement. It is a core competency of the company. Medefy is useless if people won't use it. And that is rife in healthcare today. Oh, yeah. You have a trillion platforms. Some of them are awesome. And no one uses them, right? So we got really good at saying, Nathan talks about loss aversion. We always say people will take an aspirin faster than take a vitamin, right? People will always take, this is psychologically true. They've done this in consumer behavior studies. People are faster to take an action that prevents pain than gets them a benefit. Yeah. Right. And so when you're talking to them about, hey, like if you make the wrong decision here, you could have a bad health outcome. You could cost a lot of money for yourself and your family, but we can help you get through that. People respond to those types of messages. If you do them in a multi-channel way regularly with easy value propositions that don't use insurance speak, you're going to build a ton of engagement.
Well, from an experiential perspective, what does that cadence look like? You mentioned a lot of the work's done on the front end. What's the frequency of touch points? How are you reaching out to members?
It's anything from emails, text messages, push notifications, and sometimes even for some more low tech companies, it's a ground game, right? It's traditional flyers, it's posters, it is getting in contact with their shift leaders to disseminate the information. Frequency, yes, yeah, and it's this constant touch point.
It can't just be an open enrollment, right? You can't be like, oh, by the way, there's this cool thing called Medefy, and then you move on, right?
Yes, it is a year-round endeavor.
Yeah, and this is where typically HR and brokers struggle because they intuitively know this, but they don't have the tooling necessary. Like, for instance, I was talking to a group recently. They have over 100,000 employees, and the HR director was like, "Matt, I have Microsoft Outlook. That's my tool." She's like,
"How am I supposed to do this?
How am I supposed to do this?" Right? This is where it's unfortunate for HR and brokers both, because they have a ton to do besides build engagement. And HR has 42 other jobs besides that: run a multi-million-dollar health plan, make sure everybody's engaged, make sure they're lowering costs, making sure they're using all these point solutions, making sure. They don't have the time and typically the necessary tooling to be able to do it, even if they knew how. And this is why we become a great partner for them, because we do have that. We built it, right? And so you can understand the cadence, you can understand the value proposition, but if you don't have the platform and the tooling and the ability and the understanding necessary to do it regularly, you're doomed to fail. And this is why we love to partner that way, because we can fill that gap for them.
Well, there's got to be almost a mimetic effect that happens when somebody uses Medefy and had a great experience, and they go, the water cooler effect, sometimes you might call it. But I imagine you get a uptick in engagement when somebody's had a great experience and shares that internally with their colleagues.
They absolutely do. We've done pilots before where some people get access to the full platform and some don't, and it's caused pitchforks and torches to come out because people are like, we don't understand why we can't have the same experience my friend down the hall had, where we were able to use the full platform. And so what we're very proud of our member experience. It averages across all of our platform 4.87 out of 5 stars. We have nearly 30,000 reviews. We've nearly perfected the member experience by making it very easy and understandable for them to navigate. Okay. That has a major halo effect where they start looping in not only, by the way, their friends at work, but their spouses at home. We are very good at navigating and engaging spouses, especially the female spouse, because she's making 85% of the healthcare decisions for her family. So we have what we call the household effect, where if I can engage her, and we're very good at this, she's going to make decisions for herself, for her husband, for her kids. Our power user is a 48-year-old woman. She is running her household's healthcare, and we are getting that halo effect as well, deeper penetration in these populations, because she's now using it for herself and everybody else.
Well, to your point, the scar on my neck from removing Bowen's disease, which is like a superficial skin cancer, was my wife's urging to go back to the doctor.
I think we all have a story
double checked.
Like that. And so, I mean, honestly, that is a great example, because we run push notification campaigns and a lot of times attach an incentive for getting a skin check, right? Because that prevents a lot of different cancers down the road, and short-term cancers too, right, as well. And so we've had a lot of really good luck of saying, hey, we'll give you $25 for getting the skin check. Also, just have a conversation with us. We'll set the appointment. We'll do the follow-ups. All you have to do is say, yes, I want this.
Well, that's today that falls on my wife's lap, where I would literally go, hey, yes, I'll go to the dermatologist. I could do it on these days. Will you just schedule it for me? I can do it this time. I promise I'll show up if you do all that for me, right? Yes. But then the burden falls on her as an individual to do that, and we don't have anything that would necessarily assist in doing so. And so I want to go back for a second. We've talked about friction and lowering costs are probably the 2 core pillars of ensuring this thing will work. And maybe if you add engagement on top of that, it can't just be transparency where you show me 2 different prices and go, good luck. Right. So friction points that we remove, let's talk about those. What are some of the points of friction that are obvious in your mind?
Yeah. So you brought up that example, like, if you're trying to get a member to go from this hospital, say, to this ambulatory surgery center, typically in the old days, they were like, hey, save all this money for the employer. Also, there's 42 steps to doing that. Good luck, right? Now they're working, they're parents, they've got their own activities. The likelihood of them actually doing that is very low, right? Because they've got to reconfigure their surgery. Maybe they're using the same surgeons. Maybe they have to get new surgeons. They've got to transfer their medical records. There's referral orders that have to be transferred. They're not going to do that, right? And so when you put that burden on them, that's the first major friction point, right? Once you've engaged them and gotten them a system.
What's interesting too is we've had so many people say, I don't want to have that conversation with my doctor.
Yeah.
Like, they're afraid to have the conversation with the doctor. I want to either A, switch doctors, or B, I want to have this done at a different surgery center.
Yeah.
right? Like they don't know how to have that conversation.
You said like they feel guilty or
yeah,
something?
they feel it's like
It's like a confrontation thing,
yeah, it is.
right?
It's like
All right.
yeah.
And
So what? How do you ease that burden of feeling guilty?
We have the conversation.
we do it for them. Yeah. So our referral coordination team has that conversation for them, transfers those records. So that's sort of the second sort of major friction point is we'll have that conversation if they want to, right? Hey, and the doctors will push back, but we take care of that. We're like, hey, this is the patient's will. We're going to get them out and get them to this place that's going to lower the cost. And in many cases has the same doctors attached.
Do you ever
to
have
it.
the doctors come back? Well, hold on. What is the lower cost? Can I meet that cost? Can I match price?
Yes, we have actually. We've had them. We had the case of one. This is a true story. We had a friend of ours reach out and he said, hey, I have someone, she's actually uninsured. She had cancer. She was like 24. She needed one more full body scan to make sure the tumors had been removed. She'd been paying for her way through this whole time. And so she had sold everything she owned
Oh my God.
to pay for it. They said it was going to cost her like $4,000. She sold her car, like everything. She was just trying to get a job. Jeez. And he called and says, look, she's not a Medefy user. She doesn't have any insurance, but could you help? And we're like, absolutely. We could send her to an independent imaging clinic where this is like $400. That hospital, when she went back and said, I'm going to go, Medefy is going to transfer me to this, they were like, hey, we'll just waive it.
Yeah.
And they just waived it to $0 just to keep her in the system. It went from $4,000 to $0. Just because they were like, oh, we don't want to lose the patient, so we'll do it, right? And only difference was that we knew something she didn't know.
You introduce competition into the equation.
And suddenly, when competition enters, it has a depressive effect on price.
Yep.
Like it doesn't.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. It's so
Yeah,
weird,
so
right?
every other market.
Economics 101. And so that was like another friction point. So the engagement's a friction point we take care of. The knowledge and how to navigate is a friction point we take care of. And this was the series of silver bullets that I was talking about earlier, right? And then what Nathan's describing is the workload, right? Getting the referral, having the awkward conversation if necessary, getting the referral records transferred, doing all the work that they're inevitably not going to do because they're busy with their lives. And then at the very end, a friction point is follow-up care, making sure they do their PT, making sure they're doing their drug regimen. They inevitably need something else. So we follow up with every member.
Also drives user satisfaction through the roof.
Yeah.
We have so many reviews of, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys followed up with us. Like this is like, just to check how was your experience and how are you feeling?
Yeah. Oh, and I guess I just imagine, great, you got me to a surgical center, waived my cost. I got a good knee surgery. I'm happy. But you left me after that, right? If you leave me after that, I've still got a million questions of like, what does rehab look like? What's my recovery process? What if I'm in pain still? Do I need to go back for some sort of revision care? If you stop at that point, then I can imagine user satisfaction is really low.
It is very low.
Even if you save the plan money and save them money.
Yeah, they love. So this is a true story, and it's actually a perfect segue for this. So we flew here last night to do the podcast, and I sat next to a woman who was a Medefy user.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she started talking about the platform, and we were talking about what we did. I told her I was, in health tech.
Did she know you guys were with Medefy yet?
No idea.
Yeah.
And she started talking about this platform that had saved her a bunch of money, but her favorite thing about it was the follow-up. She's like, yeah, and they reached out to me and followed up. Like, I loved that. Like, made me feel cared for. I did have something else that needed to be done that was pretty costly that I just slipped my mind. And so that follow-up generated like this ability for me to do that. And I eventually told her, I was like,
did you do a big reveal at some point?
I did a big reveal. And she, it was really a cool moment. But that's a true story. And it was the money savings was great, but the follow-up, it was I feel cared about.
Exactly.
And because I feel good, this is one of the reasons we have such a high member experience, because I feel good about this, I'm going to be willing to keep going with you to do the next thing and the next thing. And she's going to be a return user because of it.
Having spent years working alongside healthcare leaders, brokers, and employers, I know how overwhelming healthcare can feel for our customers. We've all been there. Those renewal conversations that never seem to get easier. Rising pharmacy costs and medical costs, and no real transparency into where healthcare dollars are going. That's why I'm excited about Nomi Health. They're not just fixing the old system. They've rebuilt self-funded benefits from the ground up. With Nomi's network, you can offer something truly different. No copays, no deductibles, zero out-of-pocket costs when members see a provider. It's the kind of benefit that makes everyone ask, why hasn't healthcare always worked this way? Ready to bring your clients something different? Visit nomihealth.com and see how Nomi is rebuilding healthcare, one employer and one community at a time. But so why has that care been missing for so long? Right? Why is it somebody sort of gets abandoned by the system? I mean,
it's a great question.
I know it's a really deep rabbit hole we go down, but it seems so obvious to have somebody in the equation care about the member's experience from front to end, right?
I think what it is was that person did exist, and that person was HR, right? When companies were smaller, when benefits plans were simpler, it was easier for people to go in and talk to her or him about that, right? Or the broker. I mean, I've met many brokers who were like, yeah, I give my cell phone number out to answer questions and stuff, and they try to fill that role. But as plans got much bigger and much richer and much more complex, and companies scaled, and there were acquisitions, and companies went from an average of 50 to 60 to 60,000, right? Suddenly, HR is not able to talk to everybody anymore.
Yeah.
And not even everybody has the time to reach out to HR. So they're kind of on their own. So we had that advocate in the past, right? It's just that due to the scaling size of plans and employer group
complexity,
sizes,
of course.
yeah, and also complexity and proximity too.
Yeah.
Not everybody's in the headquarters anymore, right? They're remote workers now, or they're in satellite offices where they can't necessarily just drop by HR and ask a quick question, and so they just like, I'll just figure it out on my own. And so I think we had those advocates in the past. They still exist, but it's just hard to scale that. Yeah. And that's why you need a partner.
And I think too, they tried to shift that burden onto the doctor or the clinical team as well, right? And we saw that in a lot of accountable care organizations.
Yeah, ACOs, they try to do this, medical homes.
And the doctor's like, wait a second, I'm not a case manager. Like I provide medical care, but this isn't a part that, that we do. And it's also, okay, even if we did that or we're trying to do that, how do we do this at scale? Do we text everybody?
Yeah, doctors are bound by the same problem.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's bound by the same problem.
Well, and to be fair, I'll just use the use case of the dermatologist. I did get a follow-up voicemail. It said, good news, we checked the margins. There's no additional cancerous cells. You're good to go. Yeah. When I go back tomorrow, I think, to get the stitches out, nobody's called me though and said, hey, how's it going? Is it healing well? Are you doing?
How do you feel about it?
Or is everything good? And maybe that burden is too much to ask for the doctor to do, but you would think there's some follow-up inquiry to, hey, how's it going? Right? Are you feeling
okay? Well, I mean, and also if you ask somebody,
that's like a basic level.
It's a basic human thing.
It is. And when you ask that question, right, you typically get a post-large conversation about it, right? Hey, I'm feeling this way. This is how it made me feel. This is what I want to do next, right? And that is not necessarily like a yes or no. It's an actual conversation, which takes time,
right?
And you need to have somebody that has appropriated their time to be able to
because the burden becomes on me to proactively reach out to ask the question.
And then how do I do that? You know, I'm a doctor. I'm seeing 60 patients a day. At the end of the week, that's hundreds of people. How do I do that?
Yeah, so I guess the argument is you need an independent third party that's dedicated to doing that, right? Which, okay, I can at least buy that premise. I want to ask you guys, going back to your surveying 5 years before writing a line of code, what were common themes? We probably already covered some of them, but what were common themes that emerged that informed how you built this business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So three distinct buckets of responses here. First was the everyday employee, right? And it was, they tell me about all this stuff at open enrollment, but months later, I forgot all about it, right? They want me to call an 800 number to access this benefit, but I don't have time to do that, right? I don't want to wait on hold for half an hour. Like everybody has that mindset. I remember vaguely about this benefit, but I don't remember exactly how it works. Like I'm just going to go figure it out or not do anything, right? Like we heard that over and over. So there's a confusion around what was available, how to access it, what the steps were to actually do it. And that sounds like a lot of work to people. People are very energy efficient. So they're going to say, this sounds like too much work. I'm not going to bother, right? On the flip side of that, on HR, the other side of this coin, we heard the same things over and over again from them. It's hard for me to engage everybody. It's hard for me to get them to remember everything. These point solutions go unused, right? Costs keep going up. I'm begging them not to use the ER for primary care, but nobody's listening. So they just add more punitive measures on top of that to make it fiscally painful for people to do, but they are ignorant of that too. So that it falls flat. They just get mad when they get a big bill. We heard a lot of the same thing I kind of referenced earlier. I don't have the tools or the knowledge necessary to build a bunch of material and send it out weekly to get people educated. And then once I do, where do I send them? So they were frustrated because they had no ability to engage at scale and cause behavior change. The employees wanted to change behavior, but they didn't know how. So both of them want the same thing. They both want to save money. They both want to engage in benefits. There was just this gap, right? And on the broker side, same things over and over again for the broker side. Matt, I've got all this portfolio of companies. I built all these different strategies and all these different plans that I have to execute now and make successful. How do I do that at scale? Because they're all different at every company, right?
How do I even know if the plan that I built is working?
But I mean, then it comes down to you almost blame the user, but they're just disenfranchised, they're confused, right?
It's a circle with arrows.
But you're like, I think if a great consultant has put together this master plan and like, this is amazing, and nobody uses it, and then you want to blame the people for not using
That's
it,
exactly
but we're missing a step that makes it so easy. I think of it almost like the immediacy of the association. Oh, I call Medefy, right? I think you even use the term front door, perhaps.
Yeah, we use the front door.
Yeah.
Another term we use, and we've used this analogy many times, is that like the broker HR, they put together what amounts to a football team, right? Specialized positions, right? Yeah. But what's interesting is, once the whistle's blown, every member of the team runs their own play. You've got direct primary care, you've got direct contract networks, you've got all ancillary care, all these things that run their own plays. Most of them don't even know they're on the same team. And we wonder why we don't score touchdowns, right? What's needed is the front door. What's needed is the quarterback to the team to take the ball, hand it to the most appropriate person in the ecosystem for them to run, or we pass the ball, or we
call in the plays.
You call in the plays, right? And that's what's really needed. You need that front door where everything exists in one place, and you need someone to help them through it at the moment of decision, and you need to be engaging about it regularly. You do those things, and you do them in the correct sequence with the right things, you do build huge engagement, and you do build meaningful savings for the plan. It happens every time.
Well, so we keep mentioning HR, and it's begging a question. We deal with this a lot in our sales process. The HR's voice is an important voice in going into a captive. Do we think it's optimal to have the benefits decision fall often on the plate of HR? Or is it more appropriate to have a multi sort of panel decision-making process, or even a benefits procurement team, which I know may only be possible at organizations that are big enough to afford that dedicated person. Right. But for most companies, especially smaller companies, this falls firmly in the lap of HR. Should that be the case to make these complex decisions?
That's a hard question because it's very situational dependent. I've met large employers and small employers. We have employers that span all sizes, and and we've talked to many more that are prospects or not even clients of the platform, and we find that some HR knows a ton about benefits regardless of size, and some don't. Right? They see it as one of many jobs they're trying to do well, but they've got to do other things. Right? And so it really is situational dependent, in my opinion, depending on how much the HR team or person knows about benefits and what data access they have. One of the other things that's a big problem here is they lack access to data, right? They'll get a 500-page report on claims analytics, and it's dropped in their lap like a phone book. And they're like, all right, analyze this HR and build an awesome plan out of it. And the broker too is like, all right, well, what if this? And they're paging through it. They're trying to build a plan out of it. So like really the whole approach, I think honestly, that's where we start. Not really necessarily who is making it, but what data do they have access to? Does it make any sense? Do we understand what these things mean? And then like, how does that play into plan design? Okay. And then it's, what do we decide on top of that? And who does that? Yeah. My opinion.
But I think you guys, what at least you're describing, and I haven't experienced a platformer myself, but you become HR's best friend, right?
We do. Yeah. So part of that initial enrollment engagement process is sitting down with HR and saying, hey, how do we make your life easier? Like, what are your friction points internally in your daily workflows? How do we fit into that? How can we seamlessly dovetail into all of that stuff? So we're not just some external vendor that's talking to your employees. We're pushing from the outside. You guys are pushing from the inside, and we're not only making the employee experience better, but we're reducing the amount of hours that you have to spend on benefits.
One of the really great advantages that we've got, and we're not alone in this by any means, but we have so many health plans in the system, so many benefits design packages in the system that all of our clients have built. We see what's performing well and what's not, right? We have that eagle eye over all that data. What's performing well and what isn't? What are your members talking about? What do they wish they had, or what do they wish they had more of, right? And that data goes back to where we can be good partners. And like I said, we're not alone on this by any means. There's other platforms out there that have access to this as well that can advise HR. I
was going to ask you, are you actually making recommendations of plan design and structure? Okay.
Because we see what works and what doesn't, and by population types too, right? We can say, hey guys, like you need a handful of things that will make this plan hum, which is a
give me those. Tell me those.
Consumeristic. We talked about this earlier, right? We see by and by every time that plans that have consumer-driven strategies perform the best. So we're talking access to primary care, easy primary care, virtual care. If you have direct primary care, like near-site on-site, those can work well too. If you have direct contract networks, the financial incentive to making better choices, especially when you get to large surgeries where they're going to pay an out-of-pocket max anyway, you need to incentivize them to make better decisions. Yep. So we see that centers of excellence can help here. Correct DME setups that can
even attaching a small incentive to preventative care.
Yeah, preventative care.
Get $100
to get a colonoscopy.
Okay, yes. So we were joking, like you got some people that want to get colonoscopies every month now to get $100. Like that's a little bit of odd.
It sounds crazy.
Yeah, we have a customer that will attach $100 bonus if you get a colonoscopy or mammogram when it's your time. And we went from struggling, they went from struggling to get anyone to do preventative care at all. After we launched and built this engagement around it, we now have population who is we have the same people trying to get monthly colonoscopies so they can get that $100. But you go from people not using preventative care to people trying to overuse preventative care, and it all is based on that engagement and that incentive. So you have to have those consumer-driven pieces, and you have to have the engagement, navigation, behavior change platform behind it to actually drive that, and you will see the result.
Yeah, I was just thinking that's an uncomfortable way to make $100.
Yeah, it really is.
But I understand.
Well, I mean, you would think of 100 better ways, but people are just like, I'm ready for that colonoscopy.
Yeah, and also, and that kind of touched on a little bit too, is when we look at all these plans, and we have thousands of plans in our system, right? They're about 90% the same. Largely, right? It's all this kind of base level stuff, but what really makes the difference is those 5 or 10 things that you put on top of the plan, and then you develop an engagement strategy and an incentive plan to drive usage of those things.
Okay.
And then we are first and foremost driving that, creating the plan, driving the engagement to it, and then navigating them through the system so they actually arrive at whatever goal we were trying to get them to actually.
Well, and you mentioned primary care earlier. I want to double down on that for a moment because there's multiple versions of that. I'm a big fan. I've been vocal about DPC. And DPC, a good DPC has an element of care navigation that they can do themselves, right? And they think they should because they understand the referral system. Pareto Health is the largest benefits captive in the United States. With nearly 3,000 captive members, 1.3 billion of stop-loss premium in force, and almost 1 million covered lives, no other benefits captive comes close to Pareto Health's scale. But it's not just about the numbers. Pareto Health is a mission-driven organization, and that mission has 2 distinct parts. Number 1, to make self-insurance simple and more accessible for small to mid-sized employers. And number 2, to arm them with the most powerful cost management tools on the market. So if you're an employer frustrated with your healthcare outcomes, or you're a benefits consultant looking for an alternative to the status quo, it's time to consider Pareto Health. Pareto Health, where employers come to do self-insurance right, to do it easily, and to do it at scale. So then when it comes to advising on plans, do you often find yourself recommending some form of primary care like that?
Yep. I'm a big fan of anything that's very easily accessible. So one of the reasons why we have an under 60-second answer time 24/7 for members to talk with the care team is because people are in the moment. They need to make a decision now. We have this instant access, instant gratification society that's leaked into benefits, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to primary care, you can really slow the process down if they have to reach out, make an appointment. It's 2 weeks away, right? This is where I really love virtual primary care because you're able to see a doctor quickly. Like in our platform, I think the average appointment time is 6 minutes from when you set it. You can see a doctor in 6 minutes. And that we take that referral, we make sure they get to the next stage very easily. And it's all based on speed, right? People want it now. I don't want to wait. And that's where I think more traditional primary care models break down is speed. Now, that being said, I love DPC. I love near site, on site. I love any sort of the top of the funnel being primary care because you have to start there, right?
Yep.
And that's where you see it generationally. I'm a millennial. Millennials, Gen Zs, most Gen X, they don't have a family doctor anymore.
Yep.
They don't have a primary care doctor. There is no medical base for them to operate from. So you get the chance to engage them, get them into primary care. You get to hop on so many problems that way. And then you take them by the hand and lead them to the next stage in the journey.
Yeah.
That's where it works the best.
I think every direct primary care company, clinic, setup that we've worked with, right? They've always been really good at clamping down on primary care costs, right? But there was still so much leakage for secondary care, even out of their care navigation. And so with all the ones we partner with, we said, hey guys, we know you guys do referral coordination. Let us do that. As soon as that person sees
Great
you,
point.
send us all their stuff, and then we'll take care of whatever secondary care that they need to do. And everyone that we work with has loved that. So wait a second, guys, you'll take this piece of the pie for us that we don't have to do, and you guys will do it better. Yes.
So Medefy connects with that primary care doctor.
Exactly.
And so you say, we'll take that lift off your plate, and they're happy to do
Yeah,
that.
so if they need orthopedic referral, they need MRI,
imaging,
ultrasound, whatever that
Lab
might
tests.
be, we largely take that entire burden off the DPC.
Well, so let's talk about efficiency in claims, right? Because ultimately what this comes down to is we need to drive down the cost of healthcare.
Yeah,
correct.
And I've heard it purported anywhere from 30 to 50% or more of healthcare spend is inefficient, right? So What are you seeing in the data at scale of how much you're actually impacting claims?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, right? And you're right. Like I've read anywhere from 25 to 50% is wasted or inefficient.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what is inefficiency, right? Well, first of all, you want to drive people to primary care because we're going to get the hop on a bunch of these things and from the claim side that's supported. But secondarily, it's where you go after this. And it kind of ties into your previous question, which is why I don't like, this is a philosophy thing, but it's also a cost thing. I don't like the primary care doctor navigating, because the problem with that is the primary care doctor knows the next step, but they don't know how your benefits plan supports that.
Yes.
I actually talked to a doctor recently. He was like, Matt, like when people come in and I want them to get to the next step, I have no idea how their insurance is designed. Like I don't even know, I know what network they're on, but I don't know. And he showed me this giant OneNote that he had built where he tried to get his major populations that he saw, like tried to figure out what their insurance, he was trying to do it himself to navigate them. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be inefficient. They're not going to know. So what ends up happening is they get them to care that's got an opening. Or, and many times the primary care office is now owned by a hospital system due to all those acquisitions. So it's a referral funnel. They're going to want to get those high margin services into the hospital system like imaging. And so there's sort of a, what I would call a negative or perverse incentive there on the primary care side. So we like to make sure that we're advocating for the employer and the employee in that situation, making sure they get the care, but making sure that the plan supports the next step the best. And the claims bear that out, right? When we talk about efficiency of claims, where, you're getting a regular shoppable surgery in a hospital, a tertiary hospital, where the claim's going to come back 2, 3, 4, 5x the cost of what it would be in an ambulatory surgery center. That's an inefficiency to me. Yeah. Claims cost bears that out. Price transparency studied that forever. The missing component was, how do we get them to make a different decision? And that's
well, yeah, but it's not just unit costs; it's the number of units that are being consumed as well, and you can impact both of those. And it's more difficult to say, well, we saved this money because we prevented this unit from being consumed. It's much easier to say we've lowered that unit cost of that
that's
care.
That's 100% right. Yeah. It's a behavioral versus like an actual consumption.
Because it was like, no, hold on, maybe you don't even need an MRI at all, based on your symptoms or what you described as the injury. Couple days of icing and rest and you're perfectly fine. Don't waste money at all.
Or PT could fix your back issue versus expensive back surgery. Right, exactly.
Yeah, and that's more cost avoidance. And a couple of weeks ago, we did a full analysis on colonoscopies, ironically, since that's the topic of the day.
Seems to be a hot topic.
Big hot topic at the Medefy office.
Hot topic. Yeah. But Medefy users spend an average of $800 less per colonoscopy incident than non-Medefy users.
Okay.
And so there was a significant decrease when you come in, let us navigate you, and there's also a significant increase in member satisfaction with that entire procedure.
Yeah,
well, I can think about that. I mean, $800 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about a population,
they had 12,000 that year.
Yeah, so you look at a PEPY spend on a relatively small population, you might have dropped that PEPY by $500 or $700 per employee per year. That is a material impact to a plan, and that impacts further renewals and all the insurance procurement and everything, right? And I think there's a cascading effect that can happen in a positive way by just getting all these little touch points solved for. It's almost like you're constantly whack-a-moling all the problems in healthcare.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And I like the idea from a consumption standpoint of driving increased units of primary care and preventative care costs in order to drive down the more expensive net dollar secondary care costs, right? Like cancer treatment and things like that. So I'm a big proponent of that type of approach.
Well, let's shift gears, guys. AI. I know that was a big topic of our coffee conversation. Yeah. Artificial intelligence, everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody has a form of it, and they tout how sophisticated their AI is and all that stuff. But clearly, it's going to play a role in your business to make you more efficient. So how are you deploying AI today?
Yeah,
it's a big question.
Great question. Nate, why don't you, Nate's sort of become our resident AI guru.
So, it's a long answer. I'll try to reduce it down to a 30
minutes around
30 second soundbite here. So we are approaching it from an internal perspective, but also an external perspective. And what I mean by that is we have literally gone through every single department and said, how do we use our own AI internal models and also what is existing out there in the market to streamline workflows, to gain efficiencies, to make just internal employees happier and more productive, right? And so we've done anything from marketing GPTs all the way to coding agents for our developers, right? And we've seen huge increases in productivity and the amount of things that we can get done and just, overall employee happiness, right? And then on the external side of it, right, is how do we how do we equip our care team to be better and better and better and better, right? And we've done this with developing our own kind of co-pilot GPT for our care team. And so where previously maybe the care team had to go search out a benefits answer, or they maybe didn't know how to phrase something, right? All those conversations are being passed through our internal AI, and it is assisting the care team with their job. So now a person, that could typically handle 2 to 3 people concurrently can now handle 4 or 5 or 6, concurrently, because this system is largely pulling up information, helping them answer the question, and we've had huge efficiency gain there as well. And so, the future of that is, okay, how do we always keep a human in the loop, but how do we have AI handle some of these conversations that are like super simple, right? What is my chiropractor benefit? What is my deductible? I got this bill. Can you help me understand it? Where a human doesn't necessarily have to be in the loop for the member to get a good answer. But those 20 to 30% of the healthcare episodes that are very individualized, that are complex, that require just a different level of empathy and care coordination, right? Then the AI will eventually kick that back to the care guide and say, hey, I answered part of this question. Now you need to take it from there and
well,
carry
you
the torch.
described the term human in a loop, and that's the first time I've heard it. It makes sense, right? At some point of that evolution of the interaction, a human gets plugged in, right? And so I gave you the example last night when I was trying to get home from Austin. Flights were delayed, switched airline carriers to try to get home. Then the other one ends up getting delayed. And at some point, I'm just looking at the plane that's supposed to get me from Dallas. I'm leaving Austin to go back to Dallas, but I'm waiting on the plane to come from Dallas to get me in Austin.
Exactly.
And I finally go, I cannot get this information through American Airlines chat bot. I need to talk to a human being. And it took about 5 minutes to get one on the call, another 5 minutes of conversation. But finally she goes, you know what? I show that plane just left 3 minutes ago. It's on the way to get you. And I go, thank you.
Right.
That's all I needed to know. Now I know I can get home. It took a human in that loop to eventually get me to the answer, because their very basic version of AI, if they even call it that, could not get me that basic answer. Right?
Yep.
And so just knowing when to plug in. So what is the moment, or what does the handoff look like? What triggers happen that say this is now a human's job?
That's a great question. So when do we hand it off to the actual AI? And transparently, that is actually something that we're currently working through right now, right? Whereas, what are the tier 1, tier 2 type of questions that the model in its current form can effectively answer, and where specifically is that inflection point where, and maybe it's based on the LLM determines, hey, but the information that I have and the way that the plan is set up, I can't effectively answer this question, so I need to send it to a human. Or the member is upset about something and it needs a different level of hand-holding or care that I can't do, so I'm going to send it off to a human.
Yeah, so the basic question would be like, where am I accumulating towards my deductible, right? Or is this facility in network, something very simple and straightforward that can be uncovered? What's an example of something that is going to necessitate a human at this point to answer?
Anything where somebody has a problem. So we have a lot of questions where people come in and they say, hey, I'm at the pharmacy and they're not going to fill my prescription. What do I do? Right? And currently there is no AI connection into the e-prescribing system where something could just go get all the context and answer that question, right? And so sometimes that is, tell me your problem. We'll look it up in the formulary, see what drug it is, right? And the AI can also help gather some of this information as well. But a lot of those times it comes down to, we need to call the pharmacy, or we need to call the PBM, or we need to do some sort of like phone or physical action to be able to handle that member's question and make it super simple.
What do you envision we get to a point, though, there's a Medefy AI agent and there's a physician AI agent and they're scheduling the appointment together?
Yeah,
or are we already
absolutely.
probably there, or pretty close?
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly where the entire market is going, right? So phase 1, everybody used and is still using AI as like an external tool, right? It's, I use ChatGPT, I use Claude, I use, so on and so forth. And then what everyone's finding is these things are so helpful. How do I integrate them into my actual workflow so they're doing work for me?
Yes.
Well, I don't have to do that, right? And that's what we're seeing the shift in right now. Is more the agentic model is, how do I create these agents that do a very specific task and then also link up with other agents that do tasks? And so I come in the morning and half of my workload is already done. I just need to review it, approve it, send it off, so on and so forth.
Sounds amazing.
It sounds amazing.
It sounds awesome.
The future is now.
It does.
We're seeing that happen. So, this is where I give a shout out to our amazing team. Medefy is a phenomenal team, and our care team specifically, is an amazing team. We have, like I said, a very high member satisfaction rating. But the reason is because of the care and the emotion and the love that they show the membership, right? So when we talk about AI to me, and we kind of mentioned this when we were talking about it before, AI to me is not an end in of itself, right? AI is a tool for us to make the experience better, easier, and increase the likelihood that that member is going to have a good experience and do the right thing because of it, right? And so it enables our team today, this human in the loop model enables the team to drastically increase their effectiveness, right? Just like, we're doing for HR and the broker, it does it for us, where we're using AI to expand that ability. The human in the loop, I think, is the way to go. Like we said, takes lower level chats, but then when those emotional chats, like you said, what are some examples? Like Nathan gave a pharmacy example. Some of them are emotional, right?
Yeah,
People are upset because of a number of things that can happen in healthcare. The doctor's office was a problem. They don't feel like their benefits plan is supporting them in some way that it might actually, but they just don't know that. Or they're having some issue because they're in pain. We get that a lot, right? People are just in pain and they need someone to talk to and help them. That's an incredibly great application for a real person to talk.
But you said over coffee too, though. You're actually seeing when a member doesn't realize they're interfacing with AI versus a human being, that AI can actually display a higher level of empathy.
That can be
how's that possible?
Yeah, it depends on the model, right? So what we're seeing, not at Medefy, but we're seeing in these developed models where they've done these experiments where they let people talk to a doctor, quote unquote, but they don't know whether the doctor is the actual doctor they're talking to or an AI version of that doctor. And people, by and large, in significant increases, people prefer the AI response when they don't know it's AI because they see it as more empathetic, they see it as more informative, it's more concise, it's easier to understand, it's faster. And we're seeing these models slowly drift in that way where, depending on how the model's trained and what data has access to, it is in some cases outperforming real people, right? And I think we see that more and more. And this is where I get excited because we've mastered that at the human-to-human level at Medefy. I want to expand that magic to everybody because really at the end of the day, the big lever for us is just conversations that make people's lives easier. Mm-hmm. And who has that and in what capacity and in what situation, to me it's almost irrelevant as long as the conversation is great. And so I just see the human in the loop being the way to go. I see an increasing amount of ability around AI, which I love, and we want to spread that magic too. So there's some, and I don't know the answer to this fully yet. We'll see how everything bears out, but there's some mix of the two in some proportion.
The people's biggest concerns obviously is who does this displace? Like whose jobs go away as a result of AI doing the task-oriented stuff better than them?
Chronic health issues, surprise out-of-network medical bills, inflated medical and prescription drug prices. These issues cost self-insured employers hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Add to this the rising cost of care and potential for waste across the life of a claim, and it's clear that self-insured employers need innovative solutions that lower their health plan spend. At Valence, we've done just that, developed innovation that shifts the current paradigm. A complete and integrated ecosystem solution driven by data, one that manages and simplifies the complexity of medical claim costs. It is through analyzing millions of data points that we enable employers to realize and fuel cost-saving solutions. Valence experts come prepared from day one, targeting the fraction of claims that will drive the majority of health plan costs. That is how our team lives the Valence promise, engaging early and often for smarter, better, faster healthcare.
And I kind of go back to, it's not displace per se as it is augment and make their lives easier, the quality of life, the stuff they get to do versus what they used to have to do. I think if we can find a happy medium between those two things, but inevitably some folks are going to lose their job. I don't even know if my job as a salesperson is eventually safe, right?
Yes.
Well, but I mean, I think we see that with every new huge shift in the market, right? And it's not, and yes, some jobs are lost, but it's also a transitioning of
into a new job,
into a new job, a new role, or your skills are still important, just not applied in this specific way, right? And this is the conversation that we've had 1,000 times with developers, because a lot of with all these coding tools, people are like, oh gosh, am I going to lose my job? No, your job is just going to look different because you have access to all these different tools now. Just like it looked different when the internet came out, when the telephone came out, when the steam engine came out, right? It's this huge shift that we're living through right now.
We've been I kind of use this analogy in that we're moving from people using shovels to dig trenches to using massive trenchers, right? Now, in both cases, the trencher can do way more work than the person with a shovel, but it still needs a person to sit in the chair and run it, right? So the person who used to run a shovel now runs a giant trencher, backhoe, and their skills are still being used, but they're way more effective at their job because of it. And
Well, and
that's
even
kind of
let's continue that analogy. The dirt that's being displaced has to go somewhere.
Right.
So now more dump trucks are coming through.
trucks
There's
and dump
more
truck
drivers, and they're driving. I mean, so I actually totally understand what you're saying, and I think the one that I've lived through is the proliferation of Zoom calls.
Yep.
So pre-2020, I don't think I ever hopped on a Zoom, and I thought that it was ridiculous to meet somebody over a computer screen.
Yeah, it's just weird.
And at some point, I don't know exactly when it happened, they go, oh, wait, this is the way I'm meeting most people now. And if I embrace this, I'll have a call with somebody in Washington, I'll have a call with somebody in California, then somebody in Boston. I can do that all in the same day versus having to fly on a plane to go to each one of those individual locations.
Exactly.
I go in person all the time. I love the meetings in person, but there's an efficiency gain that is undeniable by using something like a Zoom. AI will perform very similar transformations.
Absolutely.
I think. So in the kind of the vein of transformations, let's zoom up a layer and do our typical, which is you get to give your opinion on where healthcare is going. There's no wrong answers, and less maybe the answer is we're all going to public, public
Single
healthcare, single payer. I don't like that answer, but no, if that's, I just really want to go, since you guys have had this unique vantage point from 2018 to now of really understanding the human experience when it comes to healthcare. What evolutions are you anticipating and maybe even plotting within your business to help solve for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say this. I believe the future of healthcare is heavily, heavily individualized. Okay. Right. I think it is all about the specific person and their specific needs. And we're already seeing healthcare go that direction, right? You see the rise of gene mapping and specific medicines for specific people based on their gene makeup, right? Some that are strikingly effective, some that are curing cancer in some cases because of these heavily, gene marketed, custom drugs, I should say.
Even down to selecting the right antidepressant after you take a genetic test.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's huge because typically people have to bounce between 3 or 4 until they find a good one.
And heavily individualized, right? I think we're also starting to see that movement in the way AI works, right? These specific conversations pulled from someone's specific data that AI knows who they are and what they need next, and they're helping almost like a coach or like an assistant. We're seeing this in our own platform, right, where we can pull from the specific person's data, and it knows what to talk to them about. So it's highly individualized. We see the rise of ICHRA happening this way, where people are designing their own plans for their own families. It's this march towards the individual that it's because the individual is demanding it and the market's rising to meet that need. It's about the person. And I think that's an amazing way to go, because I think if we do it right, we'll see costs come down. I think we'll see member experience increase, and we'll see people get healthier because it's about them. They're not being treated as a large population or a demographic. They're not a pool. It's a pool of one person, right?
Well, I think care, yes. You're a little more skeptical on the insurance side of the equation in the individualized market for a number of reasons. But ultimately, I don't disagree with you about the care component of that. And you're seeing all these, I featured this week's my episode that got released as functional medicine, right? So blood testing and allergy testing to get to the root cause. Root is the name of the business, but get to the root cause of that individual's kind of biomarkers and what's happening inside their body, and then making informed recommendations on supplements, vitamins, medicine, et cetera, right? Food even, right? I think we are very much there where we can inform individuals to make those decisions very readily that are unique and custom, like you just said, to them. And that should result in much lower cost in the healthcare system. The missing link, though, is having all that information in the individual's hand with an immediate way, with a low barrier to entry, painless, right, acquisition of that information, and then letting them know what's next, which I think obviously where Medefy comes in. But I don't disagree. So I want your opinion, though, Nathan, excuse me. What do you think is, what would you layer on top of that color?
Really just echo all of that, right? And we've seen this in every other industry, right? This is why Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore, right? We all love that. Actually, I just watched a video of the last Blockbuster in existence. Very nostalgic.
Wasn't it an Airbnb or something?
I think it's in Bend, Oregon. Oregon. Yeah, it's in Oregon. Yes. But I mean, we have seen every other industry go this way and be hyper-personalized to the actual user, right? Whether that's Netflix, whether that's
Amazon,
whether that's and everything.
I've got a Spotify algorithm that knows my taste in music.
Right? And AI is just rapidly furthering all of this stuff. I mean, I have my own GPT that knows everything about me. Every day I brain dump all of my thoughts into it, right? I have my supplement plan in there, I have my blood testing in there, and I say, hey, what is my snack today? how should I be functioning? Hey, I feel like this today, right? Based on everything you know, what do I need to change, right? And it's that hyper-personalized, in-the-moment care that we're trying to, apply to health benefits as well, but it's being applied to every single other, piece of your life. And if you do it well, it works great.
Well, I like to extend this to the obvious logical conclusion, which is ultimately what we're trying to drive to is a healthier population in general, which is very much missing for the most part in these conversations we have about healthcare. It's like solving claims problems and navigation. All of those are all important. If we were healthier, and I know this sounds so basic, but if we made people healthier and we can empower them to do so through this information you're describing, we will have less interactions with the healthcare system in general, and we will inevitably lower costs. As a result.
It's healthier, but it's also feeling better, right? And that is anything from bodily chronic issues to mental health to just feeling like you matter or you're cared about. And it's that, like, those three different bullets that you really have to have, so you can drive down all of these different costs that ultimately drive down all of these.
And then what are you guys kind of plotting or thinking about the way the Medefy as a business adapts to these types of changes as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a much bigger proponent of driving change than adapting to it, right? Like, I'd rather be on the front end of this, and this is what we're trying to do.
Market making.
That's right. I want to make the market because we know what it needs to be next. I know 100% what it needs to be next. And I'm making those decisions, Nate and I are making those decisions to move the platform ahead of that because the future is the individual. And it has a lot to do with what you just said, right? Like, if we can make them healthier, they feel better, they interact with the healthcare system less, right? We want to reserve, health insurance. We used to talk about this all the time, right? Health insurance was supposed to be, originally it was catastrophic, right? Something horrible happens. You don't pull out your car insurance when you go get an oil change, right?
So use that analogy all the time.
You've used it before. Yeah. It's perfect. It's perfect for this, right? Yeah. We've built a system. It's been knotted up where you have to use it for everything now. Costs go up. They don't even know how to use it, and it's all messed up from there. So we got to get ahead of that problem. And it's a lot of what you said too earlier, which was building a better way that people just naturally gravitate to. I don't need to fight the powers that be. I just need to build a better world where people want to live there. And then they naturally move in that direction, right? And it's all about personalization. It's about affordability. It's about access. It's about demystification, right? And it's about using a platform that scales through AI and through real people that connect people together so that they can do that, right? And that's the world we're moving into, right? Like, I want to build a world where no one has a bad healthcare experience. No one. And you don't have to if you know how to do it.
Can you envision this? Because you mentioned self-funding at the very front end. Do the employer has to be self-funded to plug in Medefy or no?
No, we do have some fully insured clients on the platform as well. It's really come on, but self-insured.
But could eventually just find this product in the hands of Medicare patients and you don't have to, obviously, I don't know what's going on if spilling the beans, but I'm thinking, why not everybody, right, has access to this? But that's a harder problem to solve. But in theory, everybody could benefit from something like this, whether it's Medefy or somebody else that does a similar thing. I would want this in my plan, no matter what my plan looked like.
Right.
So how do we get in the hands of everybody?
That's right. Well, that is definitely
TBD. Okay, yeah. Fair enough. TBD. Yeah. Well, so why don't we do this, guys? We got we're about an hour into the conversation or so. Let's just finish it up with some closing thoughts. It was a really informative conversation. You guys are really cool.
Thank you.
Great conversationalists as well. So that's always fun for me to sit through. But what would you want to leave the audience with? I'll give both of you guys a chance to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I always love to leave the audience with hope because I've seen this work, right? Yeah. Mass engagement, awesome member experience, and significant cost savings is absolutely possible if you know how to do it, right? Like, it feels like this giant mountain to climb, and I've talked to so many brokers and HR executives who struggle with this. It is absolutely a solvable problem if you know how to do it. You have to have the right pieces in place, and you have to know how they work. But if you do it right, you can do it. Like, I was joking. Like, guys, we have literally a lander on Mars right now beaming back HD video of the Martian surface with sound. We have a drone that
we can solve the healthcare.
You're telling me we can't figure out how to get people to go to the doctor on time? Yeah. Like, it's very solvable if you know how to do it. And I've seen it work so beautifully, and that's what hypes me up. I've seen this work so many times. We know how to do it. There's hope out there to fix. That world that we want to build is possible, and we've built it. And so that's what I want to live. It's very doable, and members can have a great experience. experience. Everybody can do less work, and it's a privilege and honor for me to work with the team that we've put together to do that for people.
Well, when you've been like you've seen the top of the mountain and you have that vantage point, and you see
how
what
beautiful
does
the
work,
view is.
right? Like the view is beautiful.
Yeah.
You almost want to be the Sherpa that helps bring everybody up to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, and it's exciting because, I mean, to your point, right? We are seeing it work. We are seeing these success stories, and I think you even said too, right? Like this should be in every single person's plan, and it should be because this is the way that you change behavior. This is the way that you support people. This is the way that you make them healthier and happier with their benefits plan, and honestly, life in general as well, right? Because healthcare is a distraction to most people. They just want to get back to their normal lives, and so if we can help minimize that distraction, make it easier, make it more streamlined for everybody, and we're doing this, and we literally have over 30,000 4.8 out of 5-star reviews. And whenever, I have a bad day sometimes, I'll read through all of those reviews just to remind myself we are making a massive difference. And it is helping people. And it's intensely satisfying.
What's the adage that, a healthy person wants 1,000 things and an unhealthy person wants one, right?
Yes.
And if you have the ability to help that unhealthy person get back to a state of homeostasis and feeling good and going back to work and living their lives, like what a valuable role to play in that person's life. So I wish you guys immense success. Thanks for coming down. Obviously, thanks for hanging around for the thing we're going to do tonight. I hope it'll be good for you guys from a networking perspective. But this has been a fun episode, and so I can't wait to send it out into the world. And so I just appreciate you guys very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We had a great time.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thanks, guys.